Hi everybody, welcome to Season 5, Episode 29 of The Hard Truth, Inside the Football Injury Podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darren MacAnthony, Chairman and owner of Peterborough United. If anyone's watching on the video, they will see that we have a new location, a new recording studio.
Phil's living in his car, his wife's finally thrown him out.
Yeah, I'm sat here outside the SoFi Stadium in LA, which is where the Rams play and where the World Cup semi-finals are going to be.
Awesome.
Heading out to go and watch the Chelsea-Liverpool game on this big screen in a little while. But, you know, our schedules are as such that it was the only time we could get together, and I wasn't going to miss out on, I was almost ready to text you last night and say, screw this, I'm not doing this tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm off to visit my son at college tomorrow, and obviously, I didn't want to not do this. You know, like my wife just said, "What the hell are you doing up so early on a Sunday?" Yep. And I said two things. I said, one, I said my pal on the partner on the podcast, his team have won promotion, and I said we got to do an episode. And secondly, I'm at work now recruiting for next year, so yeah. The hard work starts now. So anyway, but looking good in your jersey. Massive congratulations! So happy for you. Said it yesterday. You deserved it. Like lots of Bradford fans deserved it. But obviously, I couldn't be more psyched for all of you guys. So phenomenal. And I texted obviously the whole hierarchy at Bradford, and yesterday there was quite a few people I texted yesterday. It was Ryan from people at Bradford, Grant McCann over winning another league title. Fair play to him. Rob Couhig, who's taken over at Reading. Quite a few people yesterday just started doing the rounds. But you do that in football, regardless of how shit your team's done or whatever. You want to. Well done and whatever else to people. So,
and they go through, Ryan, I wanted to make sure that, I wanted to thank him because it's a thankless job,
100%. He's been abused like
all the crap that he's got. Like, I hope he enjoys it and,
absolutely.
And doesn't try and deflect to his team too much because, he's a big part of what we've been able to achieve. And
absolutely. He's got to get credit. Your owner, as unpopular as he is with lots of people, has to get credit.
You put the money in.
Yeah, of course. And everyone likes to just go after the owners when, teams aren't doing well. But, he found the coins and the money. And, and obviously David Sharp's come on board. So, there's obviously a collective effort in there. So well done to them all. But take us back. I'm going to shut up talking and I'll let you explain. Take us back to yesterday and game day.
So, part of it is a blur, so let's go back right to the very beginning. You telling yourself just need to beat Fleetwood, in our own hands, all that kind of stuff. You're psyching yourself up into this is just another game, and then obviously it isn't. There's big congregations of fans all around the city of Bradford before the game. They're all organizing marches onto the stadium, so there's roads closed in the city because of how many people are out. People getting there to greet the fans. So the fans are just kind of trying to push their way through all this bedlam outside the stadium while everyone's, taking the selfies and wishing them good luck. And, it's like all these pop stars showing up for a gig and everyone hanging out outside the stage door. So there's nothing like that to probably make, Graham's there saying just another game. But, obviously the reality is very different. Inside the stadium, full house. Fleetwood took less than we usually give away fans as well, so they just had one block and the whole rest of the stadium was full of City fans. We always walk out last day of the season to You'll Never Walk Alone, because it's really in remembrance of everyone who passed away in the fire, and it's always our remembrance fixture, so it's always emotional, at the start of the last game of the season. So you kind of, you've got all that going on before kickoff, and I think it probably has an effect on everybody in the stadium every year when it takes a few minutes to kind of shake that off and get into the game. And the club do a good job with the players of making sure that they understand that that's part of what playing for Bradford City means and kind of the fabric of the club. Get into the game, 3 minutes in, early penalty shout. We're kind of going hell to leather. Nothing's given. It's pretty clear early on this ref is not going to give a thing all day long. He's just, let play go. And, after a bit of a few chances early doors, I think just the nerves kick in. And not really that many chances. I think in the first half we had 70% possession, which is pretty unheard of for us. we're not typically a heavy possession based team, because Fleetwood just came 4-1, 4-1. They didn't come to enjoy the last game of the season and have some nice free flowing football. They came just to sit and block, and that's what they did all game, was just sit and block, and we couldn't really get past them. You get to half time, and then there's been something that the club have been doing with the BBC, because of the Bradford is the 2025 UK City of Culture, and so they've been doing something called Bantam of the Opera, which is bringing together like a choir of City fans with Leslie Garrett and Chris Kamara to do a rendition of Take Me Home, like Country Roads, which is obviously something that we walk out to. So half time on the pitch, you've got Leslie Garrett, you've got all these people doing like opera basically, and the atmosphere, again, it just adds to the fact that this is a very different occasion than a typical game of football.
Are you watching the Walsall results up on your computer? Or you?
No, not that. Well, I would keep on checking the scores, but I wasn't watching it because I was like, this is in our hands, so I'm not going to worry about Walsall. Come out the second half, we just looked like we couldn't break them down. It looked like we couldn't score. We kept going, and then word comes through about Walsall. Walsall are now beating Crewe, and like, okay, crap. Now we have to make something happen. And it wasn't happening. Well, we'd have the occasional. We had a header from a corner that hit their keeper on the shoulder and hit the bar.
You were thinking one of them days.
Yeah. They had one chance and we had a worldy save from our keeper, or else it could have been even worse. But you just felt it wasn't going in. And then there was rumours around the ground on about 80 minutes that that Crewe had scored, and it was 1-1, but there was nothing showing up. And so, I was then furiously refreshing and I didn't see anything. So I went on the Twitter accounts of both clubs because I thought that's where it's going, that's where you find out first. And I didn't see anything.
Hang on, what happened to 5 minutes ago? It was in your hands. You weren't worried. You weren't looking at Walsall's result.
I know. Well, at this point I was, because now we're fourth.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
So now I cared.
Now you cared. Oh God.
And because I could see that we're not getting anything out of this. I mean, Fleetwood were just resolute in their defending, and 5 minutes to go, we who did we sub? Richie Smallwood came off, somebody else came off. We started throwing the strikers on, change of formation. We put Jack Shepherd, who's our centre half, up front.
Right, kitchen sink
time. Yeah, now you got your defender as a striker. Now now we're like 2 or 3 minutes to go. Now we're starting to create chances, because Fleetwood are not necessarily showing any desire to attack us, and now we're just throwing everything at it. And so then you have Jack Shepherd hit the post on about 93 minutes. Anthony Starcevic missed from 3 yards, middle of the goal. Would have been easier to score, put it over the bar. This was 94 minutes or so. And you're like, okay, we're done. We've screwed this up. And then from absolute nowhere, ball comes in, crappy shot from the edge of the area, deflected off Starcevic, who probably knew absolutely nothing about it, and it just wrong-footed the keeper, and it almost p-rolls into the other side of the goal.
I've watched the goal. Would VAR take that goal off?
I mean, you obviously can't see the angle, can you?
Was he offside? He looked a yard or so, I'm just thinking, can you imagine if that was in the Premier League to stay up or whatever else? Like, fucking this is why
we shouldn't have VAR.
I love it.
Walsall fans may disagree with me at the moment, but
because I often think back, like when Schmoddix went down for the penalty against Lincoln, and Jono scored a penalty before the sub. The VAR would have taken the penalty off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's kind of like, you can't have it both ways type thing. But sorry, carry on anyway. What was the emotions like in your house?
Well, so I'm here in this hotel room on my own.
Of course.
LA. And so I don't really remember what the next minute was.
Shit, you said to the hooker next to you, not now. Give me 10 minutes.
I was already pacing my hotel room because I couldn't sit still and watch this. So I'm already pacing around everywhere. So I think, I'm just kind of silent screaming, running around because it's in here in LA. It's, it's still early morning. So I'm kind of going crazy. And then you're seeing the pitch invasion.
Oh no! Oh no!
So as soon as the goal went in, then everyone's invading the pitch, and it's getting ugly. Flares are out, people on the pitch, supporters going up to their players and their manager, and you're just thinking. I mean, I understand like the outpouring emotion, but why?
I messaged you because the Sky thing was telling me the game was over. So I messaged you. I saw the goal come up in real time on the Sky thing, and then it said injury time ended second half. So I've messaged you, congratulations, and you've gone, we're still playing. I'm like, what's going on there on the Sky thing? So for like 3 or 4, well, I think it was like 10 minutes, I was waiting for you to text. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Confirmation. It was weird.
I was sending you pictures of the like this with the 5 Fleetwood players and no referee, so I'm not really sure what's happening here.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So the ref takes them all off, and so they're all kind of hiding in the tunnel. And at that point, you're thinking, because we've got history, with pitch invasions and stuff, and you see the ref like basically on the phone to someone down by the tunnel, and I'm like, they're going to call it off.
Oh no!
The EFL hates us.
No, no way. I mean, you're a minute over injury time already. I mean, he should have blown the whistle. Well, really, I'm sure if you'd gone back to kickoff, if your fans hadn't invaded, he would have blown the whistle.
Kicked off in a burn because it was, it was nice. There was 6 minutes of injury time.
Yeah,
which probably should have been 10. And we scored on 95-30 or something like that. So, it would have been done. So everyone's standing around for 10 minutes until he brings everybody back out again and gets the game started. And you think, the first time the ball goes in the corner where the tunnel is, he's going to blow, and he doesn't. So then, so then you're thinking, okay, there's still time for them to score.
Your manager made a substitution, didn't he?
He did, and actually,
that can be the stupidest thing for a manager ever to do, because again, then they're going to add 30 seconds because of the sub, and you're thinking, what are you doing?
And also, word was that 𝗧𝗏 got sent off.
Right.
So he was on a booking, and when the goal went in, he took his shirt off. And I believe that he was shown a red card, and then in all the melee, the referee rescinded it.
Oh, okay. Right.
And basically, I don't know whether he was like, well, I'm going to blow up soon, and I'm not going to do this to you, or whatever. So we all thought that 𝗧𝗏 was off. And then we're about to start, and 𝗧𝗏 is there again. Like, well, he didn't. So then I'm thinking, I hope they don't throw the book at us for playing an ineligible player, once he's been sent off. My emotions all over the place.
How long did it play on for? How long when they
played on for about an hour? He played on for about a minute and a half.
Oh my God! Did it ever go in your box?
Yes. But then they did it was a bad cross. It went over. You kind of knew, okay, that's it. And then he blew, and then. I mean, when the goal went in, you've never heard such noise.
Oh my God! I saw the goal. I saw all the people on the pitch. I saw like the invasion. You know what I mean? Everyone just going crazy. It reminded me years ago, Rotherham. I think Freckington scored, and Rotherham had gone up promoted, and all the fans were behind the goal, ready to invade the pitch. It was crazy. So I mean, mental.
So full time goes. Pitch invasion again. Graham Alexander being put on people's shoulders.
Fantastic point.
It was, and I still can't believe it. Really,
it's great.
It was. I mean, what a way to win promotion.
The best way.
The last kick of the season.
The best way. The only way. And I'm so envious in a healthy way for you. You know what I mean? Because everyone wants that. Fantastic. I saw all the scenes. My social media algorithm's just obviously full of Bradford stuff, and whatever else. So
I'm probably not helping that.
No, that's absolutely fine. But no. Look, at the end of the day, this is, you have to celebrate these moments in football, and obviously, we have a relationship. It's a big part of the pod. So I'm not a Bradford fan, but I'm delighted for the Bradford fans. I'm delighted. You guys have had the shit kicked out of you, and it's nice. It's lovely to see it. And now you wake up today, you're optimistic, you're planning. You know, my poor fans are waking up today thinking, what the fuck? You know, your fans are. That's the beauty about football. You know what I mean? And the beautiful game we're all involved in. So, no, to everybody there, fantastic. And what a great addition to League One. To have another big club, you know, bring a good away following, you know, and we'll have to get both our shirts on and have the hard truth derby next year. You know,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's hope the fixture computer is kind to us.
Can you imagine first game of the season?
Well, I hopefully not, because I have Oasis tickets at Wembley for the first game of the season.
Honestly, no, it's fantastic. You know what I mean? So let's fast forward. So I would imagine there's going to be a parade.
I haven't seen it being announced yet, but based on what I know, it will have happened, I think, by the time we publish this. So there'll be a parade around Bradford. You know, I think it'll take a few days for the haze, you know, of what's happened, and then we go again.
No, fantastic. And then obviously it's exciting, you know, for next year. You know, what are we doing? It's great.
I mean, I thought we were stuck in League Two forever. You know, it's been, it's been 8 years since the start of our relegation season.
Yeah.
You know, so it's 6 seasons we've had in League Two.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've been some pretty depressing seasons.
No, of course.
So,
but you're back.
You know, we got lucky. Well, we said at the start of the season, it's a weak division. If ever there's a time to try and get out, you know, who knew that we'd make it as hard as we did, but we did it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how hard the last few weeks are. We've done it.
No. And who in your team, your 11 that played yesterday, are you going to lose for next season?
From a loan perspective, Jack Shepherd will go back to Barnsley. I think he may be in their plans.
Yep.
Teo Adaramola will go back to Palace. You know, and maybe if we want to, there may be an opportunity to bring him back with being a League One club now, because I imagine that after, you know, he didn't do great at Stockport, came into League Two, did well in League Two. They probably want to give him another League One loan, I'd imagine. So that may be a possibility. We have a few that are out of contract. You know, Richie Smallwood is out of contract. I'm not sure if we've got an option on him or not. But he was talking about, you know, this is probably the biggest game of his career because of his contract expiring and, you know, kind of choices that he'll have to make post the game. I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of the squad was built for League One rather than League Two.
Yeah.
And, you know, they did that deliberately to not have to make wholesale changes if we did get promoted. But, you know, sometimes League One players aren't suited for League Two.
Yeah.
So we'll see who, because you could look and say, well, we only scraped through and we got, I don't know, the lowest points total in Donkey's years to get promoted.
Irrelevant.
You know, is this team good enough for League One? But I think there's a base there.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. Look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? So you're a big club. You're in League One now, you know, and see where it takes you. So, you know, it's like everything else.
Yeah, I mean, the budget, I imagine our budget will be in mid to lower half of the table. I think our budget, where our budget was this year, was probably, you know, there were some teams around, well, probably around where you finished, that are similar to what our budget was this year.
Yeah.
So, you know, the owner will have to, and the owner put his hand in his pocket quite a bit this year. So he's going to have to do the same again next year if, you know, if we want to strengthen and kind of build on it. But
it's all exciting now.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 15,000 season tickets sold already. I imagine that there'll be a lot more coming.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. You
know,
it's, you know, the fan bases. It's like I was going through all our numbers and whatever else. You know, we have our average attendance is pretty much in line with the last like 2. You know, our average attendance is the same as it was in the Championship nearly. Like our fans have just like gone to a different level.
Yeah.
You know, it hasn't dropped off. Usually ours would drop, say, down to the 7s from like 9.5, 10. And it's like
they stayed with you.
Yeah, stayed there. I mean, I have to say, like, if there's an award you could give out to your fan base, you know, I mean, yeah, I get it. Their day out of Wembley was their big award for, you know, the shite we've had to put up with this season. But I'm still in shock over that. You know what I mean? That the fans have kind of, stayed there and travelled away and whatever else. So, the Bradford and Posh fans, my God, what a job they've done this season.
Yeah. And, in League Two, congrats to obviously Grant and Doncaster winning the title. And so he dedicated it to his mom as well.
I sent a message to him yesterday and said, look, another league title to add to your cabinet. And I'm sure your mom's smiling down on you. Well done to you and your family. You know what I mean? Fair fucking play. So that was nice for him. Who else got
Port Vale?
Port Vale obviously went up. Congrats to them. The playoffs are going to be great in League Two. Chesterfield are flying in there as a team in form. That's going to be juicy. So I'm really looking forward to
Walsall, one win since February, which was
I mean, their fans have just like their guts have been like fucking ripped out.
I can't imagine as much as the euphoria that we have. I can't imagine. You're so far clear at this.
But not only that, if you're their fans yesterday, checking the Sky thing, going, "Oh, Bradford have blown this, and we're up," and after all the shit with. And then that happening. I mean, they're like I said, they're the roller coaster for the Walsall fans. By Jesus. Then you got the Championship. You've got obviously Burnley and Leeds fight for the title. Leeds won. You got Coventry with an amazing result. So you've got
playoff. You got the playoff you wanted.
I did. Yeah, I'm praying both Coventry and Sheffield United win, and then you can call it the hard truth 7-figure playoff final. Guaranteed. Obviously behind that, Millwall just fell short. And then the relegation, Hull slipped out, Luton fucking went down.
Yeah.
So
even in all of our craziness, I'd forgotten to go and check on that one because I was watching that one.
Mental. I was watching all the things, and then massive shout out, congratulations to Leyton Orient for obviously getting in, firming up the playoffs in League One. What a turnaround they've had.
And they just got some new investors as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they have. You know what I mean. So, and obviously Reading yesterday announced Rob. As I said to you earlier, I'd messaged him. He's obviously gone in there. It's been on the horizon, hasn't it, now for a while? You know what I mean. So he's a good guy, and the Reading fans certainly won't have to worry about having to pay their bills or losing their players with him as owner. So, that's worked out well for them. So, yeah, that's football. League One's just got stronger again with Luton coming down with Premier League money, Cardiff, Plymouth. Bradford coming up, that's what it's all about. So it's
it's we get to what's the right word? Rivalries that we haven't had for a long time. We get them again. Real rivalries. Like Huddersfield, rather than these made up ones that we find ourselves, messing around with in League Two for the last few years.
Don't be a snob. Don't be a snob. It's like, just as the clubs are bigger, now those rivalries are bigger, you know what I
mean? And who knows how we're going to do next year, but we'll worry about that later. There's a lot of work to be done in the summer.
Enjoy the moments, and as my club has shown, it's sometimes your expectations, aren't quite, what they expect. The end result isn't quite what you expected. You know what I mean? So there's no guarantee how you're going to do in any league, with all the best intentions in the world and things that can happen. You know what I mean? So what a day for all the Bradford fans. What a day for you. Fucking massive. Well done.
So talk me through your last day of the season then.
Did we do a hard truth after Mansfield the other night?
We didn't know. So you lost 4-2 to Mansfield, didn't you? Was that Tuesday?
Yeah, it's 3-0 down after 30 minutes. I mean, Mansfield have been 6-0 up on us in two halves. You know what I mean? Like, for whatever reason, what the fuck? Like, look, yesterday, we went 1-0 up in 30 seconds, and that was as good as it got. Although we did hit the Teo, then it nearly scored a worldie at the last second. It hit the post. The inside of the post and bounce back out, you know what I mean? But the only positive from yesterday was, Joe Andrews made his debut. He's a great prospect, and then young Andre from our academy, wide right, made got his debut, and he did great. One's for the future. But it was just. Do you know what I said to me and the gaffer? A really good chat yesterday after the game, and I said, look, here's the good news. If the last 2 or 3 games, some of these players had kidded us on, and we won those games, maybe that would have been the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, the will be your eyes.
Yeah. Whereas you think before, just need to sign 3 or 4 in the summer, you know, and then suddenly the hard truth reigns in you that maybe you got kidded along, and when it matters, come August and September, you know, say they don't show up. So look, it's been a fucking absolute awful season in the league, awful season, and the league's our bread and butter. And fair play to our fans for sticking with us. And all I'll say is, like I said, never again. Like, you know, I'm on it now. I'm absolutely, you know, gutted about how bad it's gone on every front, you know. And yes, we can talk about recruitment. Nobody's shying away from have some of the players we recruited come off. No, they haven't, and they haven't stood up, and they weren't quite, you know, ready. They weren't really developing like we thought they would. They didn't, you know, do what other players have done in the past and take that mantle on. Players maybe we should have sold and kept, didn't help in the dressing room. And it's not blaming anybody, just a lot of collective poor decisions, not great decisions were made, you know, between us all. You know, and if you could have a magic wand to go back in time and make this decision and that decision and maybe give contracts to people we shouldn't have who stayed and then ended up selling anyway, all those things, you know what I mean? So, and then throwing the injury shite. It's just been like that the whole season. It's been just a drag.
With the number of players you lost in the summer last year, you know, I'm sure that you were wanting to protect against losing too many as well. And maybe the ones you should have sold that you didn't because you just didn't want to rip out entirely the whole.
And there was a fear of, you know, well, if you sell Hector, you know, and you know it's your captain, and you know you've already sold, you know, 3 high value assets, so you don't need to sell them. But stupidly, we could have used the money, you know, bought 2 new central midfielders, you know, and just bought into a full on. This is a rebuild, and let's not shy away, and this is what we got to do. And you know, we went the other way. We were fearful of losing our captain, fearful of losing, you know, one of the best midfields in the league, fearful of what the fans think. All those things play into it, and that was a collective, you know, like, you know, I should have at the time put my foot down. I let it go. I said, look, you know, final decision is as a club, we'll sell this, and after that, we don't need to sell anything else. You keep what you want to keep. And same could be said for Randall. You know, there were certain players who wanted to leave. We should have just. And I'm not blaming any of those players. It just it didn't work. It didn't work. It's just been an absolute disaster. And our fans have stuck with us. The media, to be fair, bar, you know, the radio commentators who constantly just talk down about us and whatever else. Even Alan Swan's been quite, you know, what's the right word? He's been doing it for a long time. I think he can see the reality. Yeah, he's pragmatic, but he also knows, like, you know, we didn't just pocket all the money. We, you know, we still spent millions of pounds this year. Millions of pounds. Everyone forgets that.
I mean, I laugh when I see people on social media saying, "Oh, Darragh's asset stripping. He's pocketing all this money from selling it." It's like, you know, nothing could be further from the truth. No matter what it might look or feel like, that, you know, your squad isn't as strong as it was last year.
Sure.
I mean,
we spent millions. We spent millions this year, you know, on players and fees and also loans. Even the loans were all wrong. You know, we spent over 600 grand on loans that we could have allocated elsewhere to players we owned, and we did it on loans that just completely were fucking awful loans. So it's just been a collective fucking, you know, shite fest.
Do you look at the recruitment and does it make you gun shy, or, you know,
spooked?
That you know, maybe the system is broken?
No. I said to my scouts, you know, are young guys who worked for me for a long time, and I didn't want them getting spooked either. And no, nothing spooked me on that front. And you know, and it was important when I spoke to the staff and we were all together. So look, we can't get spooked about who we are as a club, what we're trying to do, how we recruit, how we do this. We can't get spooked because we've had a shocking season on so many fronts. Because it's not just about the quality of player we brought in. There's so many other reasons. You know, there's injuries, players that fell below their standards from last year. You know what I mean? Reasons that we just, we're not a 19th place team in League One. I'm sorry, we're not. I don't care what people want to say. Out of the bottom 10 clubs and what we had, and you hear managers talking about our front four and what we can do, and what we just haven't shown up enough. Our players, we haven't got the best out of them. Are there some players in there that we signed aren't good enough for us? Of course, that happens at every football club. They haven't stepped up. They aren't good enough for us. The mass majority still of players. I mean, you asked me before we came on air, you know, what, you know, have you lost value in players? And I said, the weird thing is, like, you know, we've already been offered like 7 figures by a Swedish club for Gustav. You know, we know what we have there, you know, and I know he's, you know, probably not screaming to our fans at the moment. He's number 9. They think, you know, he's going to score. We have a lot of belief in him. You know, we've been, if you'd said to me a year ago, Con Clark and Nevitt, you know, we're going to have maybe not quite the season we thought we were, you know, you'd have bet your left nut they were our kind of signings, and that was everyone at the club was like absolutely nailed on, convinced we were going to develop those lads, you know, and most certainly Con Clark was going to be absolutely a standout player this season. George, we knew was more of a project, hence why we signed other centre halves and whatever else. But they haven't come off yet. You know, we spent $500,000 on a left back that's never kicked the ball for us. You know, so there's been so many. You look through all the signings, the players we brought in. You think, well, we signed a great boy in midfield from Man City. We thought he was going to fly. Yeah. You know, Jadel, phenomenal for us last year. He's going to play here. Just things haven't worked out. You know, Ibby and Keane were good signings. Ibby can play at this level. Keane, absolutely. Are they first 11 players right now? They need to do more. They need to improve massively. I need to get them competition. So, you know, it's just been on.
Do you have any theory on why a lone player who was so successful one season doesn't work next? Because it happened with us too. You know, we've had players that, you know, the whole, you know, don't fall in love with a lone player, fall in love with a lone player. You get him back and you're so excited to get him back. And it just doesn't work in the second season.
New contracts, sometimes, you know, they sign a new contract, bumper money, you know, maybe think they're, and this isn't a slight in any of the loans we've had, maybe think they're better than they are. Maybe forget about what got them there. Yeah, who knows? It's a mixture of reasons. Look, all I'll say is, as a group, you know, as an owner, underperformed. Coaching, players, underperformed. You know, not 19th place, not for the investment made, not for the quality and talent of player, you know, that we had. Even players we brought in January spent a lot of money. You know, there's no way we haven't won for 5 or 6 games at the end of the season, getting smashed by Mansfield away.
Yeah.
You know, hardly having a kick in the second half against Rotherham. With all due respect, no, I'm sorry. Like, we're not taking any plaudits or credit for that. So we have collectively, every one of us have underperformed.
Now,
and that's going to change in the summer, and we're all on the same page on that. Yeah. And I said to the gaff.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in what you were going to say about Darren, but I don't know if I misinterpreted this, but what I've seen from Darren in the last few days suggests that, you know, he feels like he did a good job with the tools he was given, and that seemed at odds with, you know, a lot of the conversations that we've had around and what Darren has said previously about, you know, everyone being in this together.
Yeah, look, I can't speak for the manager. You know, he's hurting, so you know, probably his last few interviews, he's just feeling it, you know, or he's just feeling like he's getting kicked in the nuts all the time. So then you straight away go to recruitment. Is it this? Is it that? And whatever. That's learning from all the mistakes. That's learning from, and it's not just recruitment. It's loads of things. But like I said, if we all sat in a room and put lie detector tests on, I don't think we've all been at our best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So look, fantastic. We stayed in the league. I'm not going to celebrate that as an achievement. I never will. Not as long as I'm in football. So we now put it behind us. And, you know, the good news is this, the manager's been speaking to the players, and we've been speaking wherever else. Things have evolved over the last couple of weeks because players haven't stepped up. Players have not shown what we thought they'd show, given the opportunity with no pressure on. They still haven't shown what we need. And for us, the prerequisite is you have to run. You know, every successful football team has players who run. And if you can't even do that in games that have little going on regards your league position, but have a lot going on for you individually to show if you're going to be involved next year, and you can't still do that, well then, regardless how talented you are,
you can have the worst talent in the world, but you can still run.
No, correct. So little things, you know what I mean? Characters, personalities, dressing rooms. We're sick of people, you know, in our dressing room always thinking of big moves. Maybe that's the thing about our club and because of who we are. And we've always said we would never stand in the way of anybody improving their career and moving on to a higher level. But, you know, we're at that stage now where we're signing players we want them to be around the next couple of years. We don't want to be, you know, yes, this summer we're going to lose players and we're going to sell. We're going to do all those things. We've got our academy. But we want players to come in to win promotions, not just to get themselves multi-million-pound moves. That goes down the line. That happens anyway.
Yeah, you have to achieve something, you know, first before you're thinking about these big moves.
Right, and that doesn't mean just because you've had 10 goals or 10 assists in the season and the team finished 19th, you suddenly you know, the star person there. I did my bit. That doesn't work. So you know, I said this before, from like January or the end of June when we report back. You know, we need everyone on the same page with the same common goal. And that common goal is style of play, hard work, and ultimate aim always of winning promotion. That's always who we are. Of course, we play it down. Of course, you know, and after 19, you don't want to be shouting your mouth about we want to win promotion. And you've got the media. I'm listening to them. I have to turn it on mute because they're relegated, a terrible team, recruitment, and they're going to be crap, and they're going to be crap for years and years. I don't listen to that shit. I look at it the other way. Last year we were 4th. A year later, we're 19th. Things changed a lot in football. Oxford a few years ago, I think we're 19th, and they ended up getting promoted the following year. That's the beauty about our game. So all I know is this, whereas before I thought maybe me, the manager, were kind of aligned on 3-4 players. We're both aligned on fucking, that's bigger than we expected. And we're going to have to go right. And not only signing gems or squad, but we have to sign spine in the 11, strong players, you know, come day one, you know, in the summer. We have to potentially a new goalkeeper. We potentially have to have 2 new centre backs, a partner for Archie Collins, a 10 that either gets Chris Con-Clark to the levels we think he's at, or is in ahead of him. And I'm not talking out of school. Chris will know that himself. He needs to like be miles better than he is, but I still think there's a super talented player in there that's not coming up. So we'll figure that out in the summer. We're going to bring him in competition to put a rocket up his ass. You know, we're going to have a Kwame replacement, and we need Gustav up and running. And because I think the manager wants him and Malik competing for that 9 spot, you know. So there's and then you've got a squad in general. So, but you know, I'm telling you right now, we need spine players, and also we have a left back we spent a lot of money on who we think is going to be fit, and he's going to be a big, you know, in there fighting. So, if I was to say to you, I feel really good about where we are at fullback. We have 4 great fullbacks, you know, and then the rest.
We've got too many fullbacks.
Yeah, we've got some great fullbacks. We've got some sprinkles of talent. We've got, we think, a great player in the future in Keane. We think Ibby. I don't know what Ibby can be. I think it's down to him. I think he could play as high as he wants, or I think he could go where he is now or lower as he wants. It's up to him. How does he want to live his life? How does he want to, you know, he's had an okay season this season, breaking into the left. You know, now the challenge is, can you go again? Can you go to a different level? Can you dominate games? Can you basically be that number 1 player? But we're going to bring him in competition. Every player is going to have competition so that they don't think, well, I'm the only left winger, or I'm the only right winger, and I'm guaranteed to be a number 8 and a number 6. You know what I mean? So we're going to bring a partner in for Archie. We're going to bring maybe a little bit of competition in there. We got young Donne, we feel, who has shown really well in these games, that will be good in central midfield. So now we know about Archie. We love Archie. We've offered him a new contract. I'll basically kidnap him at St. George's and make him sign it. So he's important, but we're going to get him. We already know who we want as his partner. So, you know, and all those things. And again, at the back, at centre back, you know, our defense this year, I mean, Jesus Christ, the goals we conceded. So all those things now, you know, now I'm fully in mode. The manager's in mode. The manager now will go and have a break because he need a break. And I said to him, here's how it usually works in May and June. As of Monday this week coming up, 90% of footballers, managers, and agents will be fucking off on holiday. The players in the playoff teams you like, there's no point in ringing about them because their managers and their owners and whatever else won't even want to have conversations until the playoffs are over. So now you do your pre-work, and the last week in May, the first week of June is when you start having meetings with players. Now, the good news is I've managed to get the manager in front of 2 players already, you know, somehow before he goes away, that we feel very confident about and we feel will be very good for us next year. And the rest of the players we need to sign and players we need to move on, that will all start taking shape. If I was to predict it, by St. George's Park 30th of June, ideally we want 4 or 5 new people in the building, characters-wise. Most of them will be first 11 signings. And then later on in July, as things evolve and as we start moving players out, we get the wage cap space, the next 4 or 5 will come in. So that, you know, that's where we're going to be. But I'm telling you right now, from me, from management, staff, coaches, we're all going to be on our shit from day one. You know, we have to be on our shit. And the players have to be on their shit, you know, and it'll be a common goal. And I just told you know, style of play, working bloody fucking hard, you know what I mean? And ultimately, we want to be in the top 6 in that league.
What levels of experience are you looking for? Like, are you shopping in kind of the usual kind of stores in terms of, you know, you're looking into what talent's in the non-league, you're seeing, you know, getting some gems, or are you looking for, you know, you've played a couple of 100 games, and you know, you're going to bring a bit more steel to us?
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag. So again, we're not getting spooked just because we've had a shit season. We won't stop the way we recruit. We'll spend money. Again, we'll be one of the big spenders. We will spend money. We spent big last year, and I'm still very confident the majority of that investment will pay off. You know, if we have to, if Sam Hughes, for example, we can't do a deal there, we'll get an experienced centre half. You know, we definitely need an experienced centre half back there. We need another centre half to be able to bring the ball out, play, pass, progressive up the pitch, all those things, you know. So You know, the manager will give players like young George will get his pre-season, you know, and we'll see how he's grown over the summer and how he's kicked on. You know, he's like, you can see he's lacking in confidence at the moment. That's a collective thing with the team. We believe there's a serious player in there. It's why we gave him a 5-year contract. So, you know, and if he's not ready, you know, we'll get him game time if we have to. You know, that's an example with a young talent like him. You know, to give an example, Archie's partner, that would be probably in the Hector band of 19 to 23, you know, in there. You know, because Archie's your experienced midfielder. Donna's definitely a talent in the future. You get another player in there, but it will be someone with legs. It will be somebody with some steel. It will be somebody who can get a few bookings, you know, because we don't win enough.
Bully the midfield a bit.
Yeah, we don't win enough, you know, tackles. But it won't be an ugly midfielder. It'll be very Hector-like, physical in stature, box to box, that kind of thing. That's really important, you know what I mean? If we had a fully fit Hector this year, regardless of everything else, we'd probably finished 11th or 12th. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and then a 10 will be, again, similar. It'll be 20 to 23, you know, probably have played in the league, you know, again, talent. And then Kwame's replacement, it won't be a 28-year-old winger, you know, but it will definitely be a winger who's quick, technically good, you know, all those things. We've already pretty much done the deal for Ibby's competition on the other side. And what I'd say about that winger is they're prolifically in goals at whatever level, and probably we need to improve them in the assists. Because if you look at the simple things about us, like we didn't get enough crosses in this year. We didn't create enough goals. I mean, we scored a lot of goals, but we didn't, you know, we're getting games now where we're having 10, 12 shots a game. It's not 19, 20. We're getting 4 or 5 on target. It ain't 8 or 9. Those stats are the stats to get you top 6. You know, our wingers aren't putting enough crosses in. You know, all those things are in there. You can see the issue. Our number 10's not running enough hard yards. You know what I mean? He's not closing the space between him and the striker. You know, he's getting lost between the lines, things like that, you know. So loads of improvement. You know, we know what we need to do. And yes, it's going to cost money. Yes, it's going to get some investment needed. But at the same time, we also have a wage cap we have to manage. So there's all those things. I'm really, as opposed to everyone else losing their shit and freaking out. And I'm not talking about, say, per se fans, but a lot of people are, oh my God, the media and stuff. I'm actually quite excited about it. So, you know, it's going to keep me on my toes.
I think this is what you love to do the most as well, isn't it? Like this is, you know, this is the time of year when, you know, you kind of enjoy stepping up and doing the business.
I want to prove people wrong. Phil, I not prove people wrong. I want to respond. I want to respond to all the stuff that's been, you know, said. And you know, we only have ourselves to blame because we did finish 19th or wherever we finished. So all the criticism, all the stuff that will get thrown at you and whatever else is you have to take it on the chin because of how badly we've underperformed. But I'm telling you right now, there's no accolades in my office for us finishing 19th. That's for sure. So I still have standards. My dog has standards. You can hear him barking in the background, like you know. And our standards aren't to celebrate finishing 19th.
No.
So you know, simple as that. You know.
How what's the timeline on knowing what you're going to get for Ricky and Kwame, assuming of course you know they're going to move on, it's going to be a tribunal as we've said before, most likely? Is that something that is going to drag out and so you don't really know until those happen how much money you've got to spend?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a couple of clubs already that we know want Ricky, you know, in the champ. There's 30-odd clubs that want Kwame. One in particular that's really going all out. And I think if he went there, it's probably the best move of his life because they'll go to the Premier League as well, you know, in a year's time or whatever else. Yeah. So, and then we'll get to work when we get a steer off those players that they're going to. We'll start talking to those clubs, you know, and because they won't want to go to a tribunal as much as we don't, because it's unpredictable and it will go in our favour in a big way. And the problem with them going to tribunals is they have to pay all the money up front. Whereas, you know, I could say to them, look,
I was going to ask about that. So tribunal isn't, you can't do all the structured deals and things.
No.
Cash payments, you know, pay at the door.
No, you get told, like, you know, an example, the left back we signed from Crewe, I think we could have gone to the tribunal and the tribunal could have said, you're paying 500 grand up front. Yeah. Instead, we signed them and we paid over 4 years. Yeah. So that's the advantage of, you know, not going to the tribunal or whatever. So, we also have other things that are happening as well, and we will try and still do business. You know, I know we want to sell and bring money in, but you know me, I'd sell my wedding ring to sign the right player. I've been in this 20 years, and you know what I've seen. I don't want to see this again. I want us from day one, match one, like fucking being a different animal next year, like we were last year. And I don't want any of the shit I've gone. I haven't enjoyed it this year, like our fans and whatever else. It's been painful. and I'm excited. I really am. It's like I said to the scouts and the data analyst team today, manager, everyone has said, like, now we have to paint our best portrait, and we have to do it without being spooked, and we have to do it without being swayed because of the things that have happened this year. Because it's not just all about recruitment this year, and that's on us now to basically. And look, I don't want to balance one's listening or anyone else and whatever else. Don't try and pick headlines to create different things around the narrative. The reality is, nobody inside Peterborough is happy where we finished. Or probably some players who are probably so fucking in their heads thinking, "Oh, we did all right," and we have to stamp that shit out of their heads. Like like with all due respect, that's not good enough.
Yeah, the winning mentality needs to be
returned. Nobody in our building, from me, the staff, the manager, Barry, thinks it's good enough. Nobody. And we'll all want to fight hard to put that right. Barry's fucking 81 or whatever else, and he'll be as hard working. I will in the summer. The manager, when he gets back from his break, his staff, he's giving them the challenge, when they come back pre-season, individual programs for players, changing things up. Our sports science team, and we talk about injuries, and when you looked at the data, it wasn't as bad as we thought. Our retention rate of players, we still have great staff. But my thing to them, my demand to them is, I want better now. I want more. I gave them all the plaudits last summer.
Yeah.
I stood in a room and I clapped them. I rimmed them all. I told them how magnificent they all were. I rewarded them all. And now I'm saying to them all, not as good this year. I want to get back to that stage. So, let's not be complacent.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not rest on our laurels. Football's an evolving game. You have to evolve all the time. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they interact now come pre-season. I'm interested to see how some of the younger players who get a chance to train with us pre-season. And it's not just about getting young players in the team and saving wages. We have some young talent. It's going to be great to see how some of them grow up over a 2-month pre-season. And if they come into St. George's, because usually at St. George's, you bring a few. You like to see them with the first team staff and see how they interact. And if they're ready or they're not ready, we put them out on loan. It'll be great to see if any of them take the opportunity, the bull by the horns. Because if I was a young player right now, I'd be looking at this and looking at the dressing room and looking at getting battered by Mansfield and some of the players and having them come out in second half. And if I was 18, 19, 20, I'd be like, fuck this, I'm getting in this team.
Yeah, I can do this.
I've got balls.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't quitting at half time against Mansfield. Yeah, I ain't running 7 or 8 kilometers. I'll give you 11 kilometers. Like, that's what I'd be doing. If I was a young player, I'd be saying, because I know technically we've good enough players. Like, that argument about, are you technically good enough? Fuck off, we're technically good enough. The question is the heart, the desire. You've seen that in football. Talent only gets you so far. So if I were some of these young players, I'd be like, I'm going to show you pre-season. Like, you want a winger who does this, this, and this. I'm going to show you I can do that. You want a midfielder who can tackle and kick someone up in the air? Because right now we couldn't win a 50-50 in a tackle shot. Do you know what I mean? So, all those things, you want a centre half. So let's see what happens in the summer. But I'll tell you right now, I'm quite excited. So, but sometimes it's like you get a chance to recreate the wheel. We did it a couple of years ago. So, the one thing we do is we don't stand still. And I know the press like to say, well, who's going to want to go there? Who's going to, but with all due respect, every young talented player in the EFL wants to come to Peterborough because 2 things. 1, they know about our record for developing players and yes, making them all multimillionaires. But 2, that we win cups at Wembley. Mm-hmm. So that's a new thing to add to our string to our bow when we're recruited. So yeah, we're excited about it. And like I said, calls are already happening. Deals are already getting done. So I will try and steal a march on a couple. And then the real hard yard will start end of May, first week of June. So that's me.
All right. Well, let's wrap things up for today. We'll give it a couple of weeks.
Watch your Liverpool game.
Yeah, we'll come back in a couple of weeks. Once the dust has settled a little bit and some of the playoff, situations look a little bit clearer. There's, Henry gave me a bunch of things to talk about. We didn't even touch on that. There's a lot of interesting things going on in the game that I think we should kind of wrap up and put a bow on before the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm around next week, so we can do next week or whenever you're around. So it's no problem. Yeah. So we can continue a few hard truths till the end of May and then take a break when we all head off on holiday. So let's do that. You go enjoy the game. Fucking massive congratulations to you, all the Phantom fans. I mean, delighted for all of you. And every Posh person involved in hearing is also delighted for you as much as we're all envious.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I'll leave it on this. I talked about feeling like family when I was at Posh a couple of weeks ago. The comments both from staff, that I've had, from supporters that I've had over the past 24 hours. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
Everyone cares. Everyone cares. Like we're all happy. Like I guess Bradford and Posh are going to have to be like half brothers until they play each other. So look, everyone cares. Everyone wanted that for you. So everyone at my football club, probably even the trolls who I blocked or DMAC'd out, probably were happy for you. So it is what it is. And look, and that's the great thing about our fan bases. My fan base have been, battered this season. You know what I mean? And I want to give back to them. Your fan base have had it for 6 years. So you know what? Wouldn't it be great to have the Posh Bradford win double promotion next year?
There you go. First and second.
Exactly.
I don't care if you win the title.
Exactly. So anyway, let's dream about that. So for now, guys, we'll sign out. God bless you all. Enjoy your days.
All right. Talk to you later. Thanks a lot, everybody. Okay, bye.